And God said, "Let there be
The
light."
Lord says, "Let my people go."
I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
This is the Talkin' Bible podcast.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Talkin' Bible. We are talking about putting God first in the month of February. As we lead into February with the last week of January with these episodes, that's our focus. What does it mean to put God first? What does it look like? What are the ways that we can be confident that we are prioritizing God? And why would we do that? We talked on Monday about the reason for doing that is not because God is some petty, envious, jealous God who demands our respect and gets all upset and angry if we don't get it. No, that's not what it means by jealous. When it says God is jealous for us, what it means is God is a jealous God who is jealous for our good, who knows that what will be best for us is that we live in relationship with him and that we prioritize him. He's jealous for our good, not for some insecurity. God needs nothing from us. He is loving and he wants the best for us. And today we're going to look at a passage in Matthew chapter 22, 6 or 7 verses here, where the disciples came to Jesus. From verse 34, the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees with his reply. So they met and they wanted to question him too. And one of them, an expert in religious law, expert in brackets there, parentheses, expert, tried to trap him with this question. "Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses?" Now, the reason he's asking that is because that's a big deal to the Pharisees. They would spend a lot of time debating what laws carried the most weight. Were the 10 Commandments more important than the other laws? Were the ceremonial laws more important than the food laws or the skin laws or whatever? They spent lots of time arguing about this. That was a big part of their everyday, as if some laws were more important. Which is the most important? They wanted to trap him. And Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And a second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all of the demands of the prophets are based on these 2 commandments." So Jesus says the first commandment actually is not, it is linked to it, but the first commandment of the 10 commandments is you shall have no gods before me. Jesus here says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your strength. That sounds very similar to having no gods before me. And it is, except it's not coming directly from there. It's coming from a passage in Deuteronomy chapter 6, a passage that even Jewish people today know really well. "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your strength." The word that we use, it's called the Shema or the Shema. And that is the name of the prayer, but it actually comes from the first word of the prayer, which is listen. The word Shema means to listen. Listen, O Lord, or hear, O people, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. It becomes the first sentence of this prayer, the Shema. And Jews still pray this regularly today. And so Jesus, and they did in that time too. And Jesus says, that's priority 1, loving the Lord your God. You pray it every day, guys. It's pretty obvious. That should be your number 1 prayer, putting God first. And that makes sense. But then Jesus kind of upends it a little bit because they would have agreed with that. But then Jesus upends it and he says, and there's a second commandment, by the way, just before we move on, there's a second commandment and it's equally as important. Equally, not just secondary. He says the second is like it. The second is equal with it. And that is that you should love your neighbor as yourself. And that comes from Leviticus 19:18. And then Jesus says, hey, you want to take it? These 2 commandments form a package together. And those 2 together sum up the rest of the Old Testament, is what Jesus is saying. They sum up your Bible. They sum up what God expects of you. Love God, put him first, love him with all your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself. Those 2 together. And in fact, later on in the New Testament, John, the writer to John, will pick up on this. And he says, you can't say you love God if you don't love your neighbor. How can we say we've loved God whom we have seen if we haven't loved our brother how can we say we love God whom we haven't seen if we don't love our brother or sister whom we have seen? So Jesus, and it's fundamental to the Christian message, loving God equals loving your neighbor. We cannot have just this, I'm going to lock myself away and not care about other people, and me and God, we're just going to get on great. Jesus and me in the closet, living on our own life, living our best life, praying, being spiritual, but being of no earthly good. Jesus would say, that's not a relationship with me. That's not actually how to prioritize me. You've got half the story, but not the second half. Conversely, we have people who've over time have made their walk with God all about loving neighbour, and it kind of becomes liberal Christianity, whereas if it's all social gospel, as if all you need to do is not have a relationship with God, but you just relate to God through your neighbour. And that's equally as dangerous as the other perspective. God would say you need to have a relationship with me, and out of that relationship with me, he would say, go and love others. Isaiah 58 is a famous passage about this, and we're in a month of prayer and fasting coming up. And this is what we're talking about during this period of time of prayer and fasting. Isaiah 58 is God rebuking the people for the wrong kind of fast. They had made fasting some kind of religious observance as if it made them more spiritual. And God says, hey guys, you're fasting for the wrong reason. Let me tell you the kind of fast I want. I want a fast that while you're fasting, you're focused on releasing the cords of injustice against the vulnerable, setting people free, feeding the hungry, releasing the unjust imprisoned ones, showing kindness to the weak and the vulnerable. That's the kind of fasting I'm after. And if you want to see my blessing, he goes on and says, if you do that, I'll bless you. So there's a link between loving God and loving our neighbour. There is no optional extra. Jesus made them equal. So we want to ask ourselves as we apply this, what's the greatest commandment? Well, what does it look like to live the greatest commandment? What does it look like for me today, Lord, to live the greatest commandment? What would it mean to love you and love my neighbour today? And sometimes it might be that God's saying, just come away with me, I need to spend some time with you. Or it might be that God's saying, hey, you want to love me best today? You've got your neighbor in your world who needs you right now, needs some encouragement, needs a phone call, needs prayer, needs some food, needs some practical assistance. You want to love me? Go love them. And that's the practical side. And it tests our priorities. If we put him first, we can demonstrate it by ensuring that we're putting others first. And this really was, just to close off, this was the big thing that happened in the Garden of Eden. They didn't put others first. They didn't trust there was enough to go around. They said, God, we don't trust you that you've provided enough. We're going to take for ourselves. And when we take for ourselves, we do it at the expense of other people. And that is the heart of making idols in our world, to take and store for ourselves. And God would say, be generous, give away, trust that I am more than enough for you, and be generous and spread my kingdom love to others. So loving God means loving our neighbor. Loving our neighbor means loving God. God bless you. Talk to you tomorrow.